Hi, my name is Lucio Nieto. I am an actor and I'm an acting coach for kids. And you can do a little slash on that. It's part acting coach for kids and part motivational speaking. I first started acting when I was about 4 or 5. My dad said that I'd watched The Wizard of Oz, which is my favorite movie. And he said that I looked at it and I said I want to be in the box with them. And from that moment, I think age 5, I was in Texas with my mom, and she got me into classes at the Young Actor Studio. And so from there it just blossomed and developed, and had always been acting, whether that was with local agencies in Oklahoma and Texas, or whether that was traveling to Arkansas and Florida for conventions. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It had always been something that I'd done for my entire life, and I think in spite of that, I found other things I love as well. I do remember my very first audition ever in Los Angeles after moving from New York. I didn't have a headshot printed out, so I got in my Uber and I got to the place and I saw that on the maps it was down the street. Okay, great. Well, the printer didn't have ink, something happened, they had to go to another printer. So I'm waiting for this to be done, and my time is starting to tick and tick and tick, and I was like, there's no way I can be late for my first audition. Doesn't matter, it's down the street, I'll be fine. No. As I started making my journey, it was scorching hot. So when I showed up, I was wearing a gray shirt and I had pit stains all over here. And the character, I had to learn Farsi. And I thought I was a brilliant actor at the time because I called a friend who knew someone that spoke Farsi, and I'd worked on it and worked on it. That morning in the shower, I was speaking it. When I got in the room, it came out. I couldn't even tell you if it was even a language. And I'm dripping in sweat, and I just stand there and go, I apologize for being late. This is a lot of sweat. That was not Farsi. This is my very first audition. I love Los Angeles. I think I called my dad, and I was like, well, the first one's done. And I feel much more prepared for the future. I mean, honestly, like, what are you supposed to take from that other than, well, if I'm really going to have to learn this language, it didn't say that we had to learn it, but do the work. And at least I tried. What it taught me was at least I tried, but I also could try harder, which means waking up earlier, which means printing off headshots in advance, which means making sure the distance and time, you have that lesson and you learn it, but then how do you move forward from it? As opposed to, well, this, and this, and traffic is this, and it's like, spend your time complaining, and that's your reality. Spend your time learning and growing, and there's your future. So either way, those experiences, good or bad, right or wrong, they're all subjective anyway, and who's to say that those are actually accurate? At the end of the day, it's all about worth. So, is this worthy of my time? Yes or no? Is this worthy of my dedication and focus? Yes or no? Is this worthy of myself holding myself to a higher standard? Yes and yes. That is the most important question. And by choosing that answer, you take your interesting Farsi dialect auditions and you turn it into more freedom to play and give yourself permission to fall on your face, because at least you're falling in the right direction. I have not learned Farsi. I'm still learning just how to speak English. I'm learning how to speak English. I'm learning how to speak Spanish. That's my next attempt. I absolutely love working with kids. They give me so much joy. They come to the workshop and these kids have their dreams for whatever reason it is. And when they're brave and they're confident and they're going on stage in front of their parents and strangers and other kids, it shows me that at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they have more confidence than even myself in that moment. And it's so inspiring because I'm reminded of the active imagination and the ability to dream so far greater when we're younger, because we're less conditioned of what we have to be thinking about in the future. And working with these kids, I had someone wear a shirt that said, be your own hero. And I asked this young man, his name is Emir, and I asked him, I said, what does your shirt mean to you? 7 years old. And he says, I think it means don't just be kind to other people, but be kind to yourself. And really love yourself. And I thought, how does a 7-year-old know how to love yourself at that young of an age? And I asked him, I said, who taught you this? And he said, me. I learned it. I just figured it out. And I thought, if that is the ability that this young man is having, wow. Imagine taking that everywhere we go. They forgive quicker. I think they also suffer probably insecurities and battles within themselves as they age and start to go into middle school and high school. But then that's my power and ability, and I think fortunate blessing that as long as I ask God, speak through me, let me be whatever I can be for these kids, as long as they feel some type of love. That's the most important thing, and encourage them. It gives me a chance that when I'm encouraging them to be brave and be confident and be kind, I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking to my inner child that needs to hear that as well. Because that is the most important thing with working with youth. You're reminded of those things that make a good human a good human. Again, it's all subjective, but in my mind of what is worthy is kindness and is love. So when I'm able to share that with them, I go home with that twice as much, because they're even showing me reflections of what that looks like on my side. And it's entirely humbling. It's entirely humbling and incredibly rewarding, because if we want the world to be more like love, it starts with us, and they're the next ones to take it on. But if I want the world to change with love, then where's my change of love within myself? If I want more compassion in the world, where's my compassion with myself? If I want more celebration, then where's my celebration? It's not just hoping, wishing, wanting, and praying for, it's actually doing, making happen, and creating the reality. And these kids are the perfect and most important. Because I battled so long with my sexuality, especially growing up in Oklahoma, I was terrified of who I was. I thought I couldn't do many things because I identified under the queer umbrella. And then I thought, wait a second, I'm a kid in Oklahoma. There's no actor who seems to be queer. And if it is, it's hush hush, gossip gossip, secret secret. And the ones that are, amazing. And that was great. But then that third thing was faith. And I think the biggest thing was, there's no one out there that when I was young saw someone who was able to be an actor and be identified as queer and have a faith and have a huge blockbuster film. And I thought, why not? Why are people afraid to hire them? And I think the fear just becomes in the unknown, and it comes in the not normal, and it comes in how to make money, and it comes in what they think people want to see. And then I realized it doesn't necessarily matter what is not happening. It's about the possibilities of what can. So I think for me as the actor, if I were to constantly tell myself, oh, because I'm this, I might not have that chance, or I say, no, I am perfect for that part because of this. And whatever other issue lies underneath that as to why you're not going to hire someone has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. And that's where I think acceptance comes from. But that was acceptance with my sexuality. That was acceptance with my faith. That was acceptance in knowing that I would have to work twice, 3 times as hard to get what I really wanted. But then remind myself that it's possible as long as I always tell myself it is. And instead of giving over to the idea of what Hollywood wants me to be, I'm exactly who I desire to be, because I'm perfect the way that I am. And there is a place for everybody. And I think it comes down to, how good is your work? Blonde hair, blue eyes, dark skin, light skin, short, tall, it doesn't matter what it is, they're all adjectives. But how good is the quality of the work? And how much heart and willingness are you willing to give over to that? That, I think, is a greater question. Where's the effort and the talent? Regardless of your identification, let's see the work. Because if people want to see the work, they'll want to see you. And those things that maybe once had the idea of holding you back make you shine brighter. They give you more joy and more confidence, because you are able to do that in spite of those things. You were able to succeed in spite of what someone said no to. You were able to overcome that and show the world that I exist. And whoever is that kid in Oklahoma thinking, wishing, praying for somebody to be that, now you have that example. So you can and you will. Nothing is out to define you. Everything is there merely to enhance how unique and beautiful you are. When I was a kid, I was raised by a very active Catholic family, and my grandfather was a deacon of the church. And so growing up, we'd be in the car with my cousins and the radio would be turned off and we'd pray, and I would be like, oh my gosh, just put on some Kiss FM. And I did not like it. I was so resistant to it. And then by 16, I had come out and spoke with my grandfather, and he said, you know, God loves you exactly as you are. You are created perfectly in his image. And if the only thing that you are doing in this world is loving, it is not my job to tell you who to love or how to love. But God only wants you to love. So if this is the way that it is, then he created you exactly as you're meant to be. And go out in the world and do whatever you can with that love. And so at 16, my grandfather gave me the gift of Christ. And ever since, I have been growing actively in my faith and questioning it and finding conversations within myself as, how can I expand this? Because I think it goes beyond just believing in some sort of prescribed religion. I don't even identify as religious. I identify as highly spiritual, in the sense of, yeah, I'll go to church on Sundays, I'll go to Mass, and I'll pray the rosary, but then I'll go hike barefoot. I'll bring my crystals and my stones. I sleep with a rose quartz under my pillow. And I will do daily affirmations and mantras, and throughout the day I'll just completely reflect in gratitude. And I use Palo Santo, I smudge, I clean. All these different things, I believe, is for the person that says they don't believe in anything. Totally for you. I respect that. That's your choice. For me, the way that my mind works is, if I were to say that I don't believe in anything and nothing exists, when I'm called to battle and I'm stepping up, there is nothing fighting for me to win that war. But if I have Christ and an army of angels, and I have this and this and this and this and this, when I'm called to battle, those army of angels, undoubtedly, I will never win or lose anything other than what I've started with, which is faith, because that has always been present. And I think in that sense, I will always win the war, because it's not necessarily my ego or myself fighting for it. It's something higher protecting me along the way. And by giving over to that faith and trust, it makes those difficult experiences of being an actor less difficult, because the mind is so convincing. But the faith is not something I was taught, it was something I experienced. And that to me is something I think very important that I've realized is, you could sit here all day long and tell me, well, you should be doing this, and you have to be doing this, and you need to be doing this. But in reality, only person saying that is you. It's a projection. So instead of saying what I need to do, let me reflect on what I feel within me is worthy of me to do. And now I think the greatest mission is to show the world that you can be an actor, you can be queer, you can be whoever, and God loves you just as. God loves you. God is so madly in love with you. No matter who you are, what you are, how you are. Even if you don't want his love, you are loved. I recently was on set for Sci-Fi Network, shooting a trailer for Expiration Date by Michaela Bender, and that was a beautiful experience, because this was the first time I'd worked with other actors where we all were going in with the same mindset of, how can we constantly get better and improve and strengthen? And being on set and the professionalism of the team, it's a very young crew, and I think what was so inspiring was the fact that some of these directors and writers recently graduated, and now they're putting to life this amazing experience. And so being on set as this character, it was so incredible, because you have about 30 seconds of dialogue in the entire project, and how do you make that come to life? Well, with the support of your team and the crew and the support of the other actors. And recently I've developed a quite strong friendship with one of the actors, and we sat around the other day for about 7 or 8 hours just talking about acting and watching Meryl Streep videos and dreaming. So I think that experience alone has given me so much to look forward to, in the realm of, if everyone is putting this much focus and effort on their work, how much more can I give of myself? I think what actually is the most difficult thing is fighting those thoughts of, I can't do this. I mean, in reality, it's, you go to an audition, you do well or you don't, and it's all subjective. It's all your personal perception of how you view yourself and your work. So for me, it's not feeling inadequate when I'm there. It's feeling inadequate when I'm not doing anything related to acting, and I get that little thought that says, you can't be doing this, or maybe before an audition. And that to me is the most difficult experience, because you have to really work through that. And for as many years as I've been doing it, I'm still finding ways to get out of that. And if I find ways to get out of that, then I'm servicing myself with my confidence rather than giving into a thought that doesn't even exist. Because that thought that says you can't is the fear and it's the resistance. But in reality, if you are actually terrified of something that you love, then that's my telltale sign of what I should be doing. So what's difficult is that little voice that tries to get you down, but what is more powerful are the other million thoughts that you can have to quiet that. And then reaffirm and reassure yourself, if it was easy, everybody could do it. My dad always says that. So am I really going to let one difficult experience stop me, or am I going to have 10 million thousand hard, difficult experiences become the catalyst as to why I succeed? I think the biggest thing is, honestly, forgive yourself. That is the biggest thing. And oh my gosh, I had been such a victim of self-deprecation because I was so angry at a certain person. I was so angry at the situation. I was so angry at God. And I was like, how could this possibly happen? And I realized, because I've been putting myself in so much torture from my past, that things started coming up over and over again because I never healed those parts of me that were ailed when I was young. I'd never forgiven myself for something I did to a previous partner when I was 18 years old. And I had carried this around with me for so long that I was like, no wonder these things are coming up, because that part of me had not been healed. I'd not forgiven myself. I'd been projecting all of these things, right? So then it came to the moment of, the only person holding myself hostage is me. And the only person that is telling me I'm not good, I'm not worthy, is me. I would never tell that to my child. I would never look at a kid and say, remember what you did when you were 5? Still remember that. You would never do that. You would encourage them to be better, and that it was a lesson. So in this case, to give the gift of forgiveness for myself is to be able to give the gift of forgiveness for everybody else, because it comes from a place of compassion. When did I do something that was, I thought, completely wrong of me or inappropriate, and someone said, hey, you know what? It's okay. I forgive you. That's a gift. But if I'm not gifting that to myself, then what's the purpose of someone gifting it to me? It's to encourage me. And so now it's, all right, I have 2 choices. Either I'm going to complain and be upset and be mad at the fact that it happened and self-deprecate and get myself under torture, or I'll say, brah, you're human and you learned. What did you learn? What do you know for next time? Forgive yourself. Accept it. Use that energy that you're using for turmoil and turn it into celebration, because you survived that experience. And if you've survived it, that means you're ready to teach somebody else how to do that exact same thing you've just accomplished. Truthfully, 10,000 million %, the one most important person that inspires me would be Christ. And developing from that would be my parents, for sure. It would be my mom and my dad. I think about all the times as a kid I wanted to go to this audition or this rehearsal or whatever it was, and they'd be so willing and so gung-ho in taking me that if it weren't for him or my parents, I would not be doing what I'm doing. And for that reason, they are the most inspiring people in my life. They raised me, they taught me to love, they taught me that I could do absolutely anything in this world. And the actors I admire most are the ones that truly transform. I mean, as an actor and as a kid, I remember being so confident, being silly and being weird, that as I've gotten older, perhaps the perception of myself is, oh no, you have to be more sexy, or you have to be more masculine, or you have to be Latino and really give over to this. And it's like you confine yourself in this bubble, as opposed to perhaps Daniel Day-Lewis or Meryl Streep, that they completely and entirely transform. And I remember Meryl Streep saying in an interview that she'd seen a show with Liza Minnelli, and they asked her who inspired her, and she said Liza. In college, she went to go see a show on stage, and Liza was performing, and she was big, and she was massive, and Meryl said, you know, that's exactly what I wanted to be, because she was so truthful, she was so real, but she was big. Meryl is my go-to, I think, for sure. Absolutely. She's a queen. She's a queen. She is some form that is very rare, for sure. When it comes to working on a script and understanding the character, I think the first thing that my artist does is think of the 10,000 million ways I can play this character. And sometimes I have to calm myself down because I get so excited about just becoming this character. I remind myself to go beyond what is just the surface of the script. and I go into understanding the relationships and how either intimate or delicate or frail or fragile the relationships are, then I start to understand why is that distance or why is the intimacy so close and needed. Then I go back to the person and ask, where am I internally with myself? Because the greatest question is, a character will react to 10 different things a different way. But if I'm at the grocery store and someone makes me angry as Lucio, then, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's okay, I'm just gonna get my rice. But if I were somebody else in a different circumstance or a different situation, in a different mindset, that one person that does something could affect something in me that maybe had been living within my past for X, Y, and Z. And I think the way that I relate to these people are going to the most honest moments of, why does a human tick? What are those things that very small people react on? And my dad always taught me, it's never a way that someone approaches you, it's how you deal with the reactions. So I think it's finding and understanding how the character responds. Why are they responding that way? What is it about that? And what is that psychological makeup? And I think we all have that. We all possess that because it's either something that we've learned or something that we're currently learning. And in that way, oh, here's an example of this. I remember when la 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 la, and I can go back to that time and I plug in that little given circumstance right there. And as far as the outer layer and the shell, that's all imagination. I relate to that because there are times where I put on a certain jacket and I'm feeling super fabulous. And there's a time I put on an outfit and I'm feeling like super chill. So I think it's all about understanding the differences in the way that I am now and also entertaining, but what could I be? If I were given that choice with myself, if I could choose to be these things, what would it look like? And what would that be? Well, now I have permission to do them with this character, with this script. And I think the fun challenge is turning irredeemable characters into that of redemption. And always fighting for the good. Always fighting for the love. No matter how someone would classify it, the enemy, the antagonist, that's still coming out of a place of love. Even if there's so much hate, hate evolves from love. So the main theme in every character is, what do I really want within my life, and what would love look like? And why is it so agonizing that I don't have it yet? And if I do have it, what would happen if I lost it? I think the biggest difference with creating the relationship on set versus establishing a relationship outside of the film industry is we have the choice to either allow someone's energy to infiltrate us and vice versa. They have the energy to be able to say no to us as well. When it comes to set on character, no matter which character you're playing, that relationship is always going to be present because the script is not going to change. So for me to be able to separate that personal energy versus the character, the more that I personalize and really give over to the relationship of that specific character and who that other person is, then my own ego or my own understanding of that person outside of when the cameras are rolling, I can put on the back burner because I'm not acting with that person, I'm acting with that character. So the more that I remind myself every single time I walk on, before action is called, I'm now no longer looking at Jennifer, I'm looking at Stacy. And what about Stacy do I find so beautiful? Her smile. Her smile is gorgeous. So every time I see her smile, it makes me feel a certain way. No matter what she does or how she says it or anything else, that to me is my knowledge that I take as my character for our relationship. And then whatever happens after we film, it's completely up in the ether. But the more that I am able to make you, my imagination, as a reality, then I'm more confident and trusting walking on set regardless of how you are or who you are outside of it. But I'd hope that you'd be kind, right? Greater service is to promote more love and more kindness and positivity and use those creative gifts that I feel very blessed and grateful for to serve in a higher good. Yeah, I think for me the most important thing about servicing the world, I guess, is using the abilities that we have individually to create and manifest for others. That could be friends, family, it can be your community, perhaps a relationship, a partner. How are you able to use those things that you've been gifted or have been thinking about from a very early age and feel confident and comfortable enough to pursue them? And in spite of pursuing them, what is the greater mission? And so I think with acting or directing, writing, coaching, doesn't matter what it is, it's the goal is always to find the foundation and basis of love. I think deep down what I really want is to be more like love. And through whatever means I go about that, my hope and my mission is to be able to keep love present in my life with everything that I do. And to be able to see a world where people are kind and accepting, and kids are not terrified to go to school, and people are not terrified to hold someone's hand in front of a camera, and people who are willing to use their words to mend a broken relationship. And I think a large part of that comes from people who have been hurting and in fear, and people who need that strength or need that kind of guidance and reassurance. And I think the one thing I constantly pray about is people to know love and know God's love. I mean, I can only speak on my experience, and I would never tell someone what they should or should not do, because one, it's not my place, and two, I don't have that power. I can only encourage. But for the things that I've experienced that I thought I would never get through or ever survive, I'm here right now, and I give that to God. So there is a thing called Christ consciousness, and I'm not perfect, nor do I claim to be anywhere near that. But if that's my constant reminder, and I'm serving something outside of myself for the greater good, then I trust that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And if I do have those desires that I want to work as a creative person and have some kind of influence, then that's wonderful. But the byproduct is the accolade. The mission is love.